G'day, welcome back to DC Extra. My name is Chris. Today we are going to be diving back into my adventures with Superman Season 3, with Episode 2 titled Mobile Suit Toyman, where we are introduced to this universe's version of Toyman, aka Winslow's Shot. Anyway, let's get into it. We'll discuss all that a bit more later on. This episode opens on a montage of Superman and Supergirl working together to stop a variety of crimes, to which Kara seems incredibly proud of herself. In this next shot, beside the obvious gold Superman and Supergirl statues in the foreground, in this shot we can see some advertisements behind them, with a few DC brands that you might recognise. First, on the left, we see Cord Industries, a company owned by Ted Cord in the comics, whose name you might recognise as the Blue Beetle. The second Blue Beetle, that is. Secondly, we see an ad for LexCorp. We have already seen LexCorp in this show, most recently in last episode, and know it is owned and run by Lex Luthor, who I believe will continue to play a big role this season. And finally, Big Belly Burger. This is a fast food chain in the DC comics, and we have seen it adapted a number of times already in the Arrowverse and the DCU, just to name a few. Apart from those three things, there are some other ads that I can't make out any names of. There is one for a dating app, soda brand, and a makeup brand. There is also one on the very left that I can't make out at all, but it looks like it has the words, or the letters rather, RMS. We then go to the Metropolis Convention Center to see what is being called Superf Fest, a convention all about Superman and Supergirl. The super team of Clark, Lois, Jimmy and Kara walk in carrying some boxes. Kara is very excited about this opportunity and wants people to call her Power Woman. This I believe is a bit of a nod to her alternate universe name of Power Girl. Doubt it will stick here though, as everyone seems to be calling her Supergirl already. Clark shares his intentions of enjoying the conventions as mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent, rather than overshadowing his cousin as Superman. After Jimmy and Kara share a moment that is quickly interrupted by Lois, Jimmy unveils his bird watchers to radio Superman, or Supergirl presumably, whenever they are needed. Lois once again encourages Jimmy to pursue Kara as a romantic partner after their conversation last episode. Jimmy makes it clear that next to her, he feels unimportant and doesn't believe that he is good enough for her. Jimmy deflects by showing his friends his stand called Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, based on a series of in-universe comics he seems to have taken the liberty to publish, as he hopes to make some money off of them and reacquire his wealth from last season. This title, of course, is a direct reference to the real-life comic series, also called Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, that was published from 1954 to 1974. It's also a bit of a common phrase in the DC universe. Jimmy actually makes Lois the villain in one of these stories, with some accurate representation of her teeth. She, however, does not appreciate this whatsoever. She makes it clear that she actually doesn't want to be at this convention, and she was tasked with covering it for the Daily Planet by none other than Cat Grant, who hopes to leverage her relationship with Superman to get the inside scoop. Despite her disinterest in the event, she finds a story when she spots a mysterious man creeping around. You may actually recognise this man, as we saw him last season. This is Winslow's Shot. He was last seen in Season 2 Episode 4, titled Two Lanes Diverged, as an old friend of Sam Lane's. He is a robotics and explosives expert who creates weapons and disguises them as toys. While chasing him down, Clark and Lois pass both Livewire and Heatwave, who may be here on a date as they were a couple in last season. In the distance, we see a woman from a bank robbery at the beginning of the episode. Guess she got let out on good behaviour. They also pass a group of people dressed as members of the Teen Titans, specifically Beast Boy, Starfire, and Raven. Also, their photographer may be a reference to Jimmy Olsen's appearance in the comics, with the red hair and a camera. At this point, it's unclear if the Teen Titans, or each of these characters individually, are actually heroes in this universe. It's even possible that they could be characters in their own in-universe comics, similar to those being published by Jimmy. It would, however, be cool to see this universe expanded with the Teen Titans show, in addition to the already announced My Adventures with Green Lantern. Lois informs Clark about who Shot is and what he did to Lois and her father last season. Clark, however, has to go off and introduce the convention's guest of honor, that being Supergirl, of course. B1Z, or Bizarro, shows up from last episode in a new Superman outfit. However, he gets the S a bit wrong, as it's the wrong way around. But that is often the way he's depicted in the comics, being essentially the reverse. The suit he wears looks very much homemade, with the stitching visible and a mixture of materials used to construct it. The Teen Titans cosplayers take a photo with him, and he seems to be enjoying himself. After spending some one-on-one time together, Superman and Jimmy are interrupted by Cat Grant, who asks if the two of them are a couple, further stoking the fans of their impending relationship. At least I hope it's impending. They are just too cute together. Kara even brings a couple of cosplayers to him, specifically Ace Morgan and June Robbins of The Challenges of the Unknown, who they dressed up in last week's Halloween-themed episode. If you want to know more about those characters, you can check out last week's breakdown. This all goes to convince Kat that the two of them are, in actual fact, dating.
Nothing between you two, huh?
Dropping all pretenses, Kara gets straight to the point and asks Jimmy to be her mate. Jimmy asks her if she is sure that is what she wants, tells her that maybe she ought to see more of the world before deciding he's the one who she wants to be with. Before she can say anything, they are interrupted, as Supergirl is required in the fittingly titled Hall S for her panel. Superman introduces his cousin, Supergirl, to the event's attendees, but he himself has to rush off after hearing a commotion somewhere else. Cat Grant questions Kara on stage, asking a series of odd questions, and taking time away from the audience being able to ask their own questions. Elsewhere, a group of criminals break into a bank. The goons all want to take the mission seriously, doing it quick and quiet, but their apparent leader wants to make this a spectacle and draw out Superman. As they bag money, Superman arrives, who is unimpressed as he already fought these same goons in the opening of the episode. I guess this is why they didn't want to meet him again. However, this time, he wasn't expecting their fearless leader, who names herself Whip. She carries kryptonite weapons in the form of whips, as her name so adequately describes. She says that kryptonite is now easy to find, with robots leaving it all over the city, referring to the kryptonite-powered Metallos we saw in last season. Back at the convention, Lois confronts Winslow's shot. He says that he's just a normal toy merchant though, but Lois doesn't buy it. Kat shifts gears and asks Kara a much more serious question.
But let's face the elephant in the room. May I pet the elephant?
Kat asks Kara why the city needs two superheroes, bombarding her with question after question, which overwhelms Kara. Fortunately, a young woman in the audience has an answer for her, saying that she's special because of her bravery and her warrior instincts. This woman is actually our first look at Jessica Cruz, who, as I've mentioned previously, will be the main character in the upcoming My Adventures with Green Lantern. Kat asks what is next for her, and she comes up with the great idea of asking for eligible suitors, which everyone is ecstatic about, except for Jimmy.
What?
This decision is obviously a direct response to Jimmy's conversation with Kara earlier, asking her if she is sure that there isn't anyone better for her, something she is now willing to discover. I can't imagine this is going to go too well though. With a public figure announcing they are looking for a partner, that would bring out all sorts of wrong people. While Kara looks for a suitor, Clark continues taking a beating by Whip, weakened by the kryptonite. She's confused when Superman says that he helps people for free, unable to understand why someone would do something for free when people would be willing to pay. Which I mean is not necessarily wrong, but it just would be very scummy, and that's not who Superman is. Whip's kryptonite weapon appears to be running out of charge, which Superman notices. But before we see how he takes her down, we head back to the convention. Supergirl's booth has a massive line now, with people presumably wanting to become her mate. Though there are some younger people there who are just fans, so not everyone is there for love. She meets a guy who she says looks like a more muscular Jimmy, which of course makes Jimmy jealous. Speaking of Jimmy though, he's confronted by Lex, who gives him a business card and invites him to his presentation. Lois digs through Shot's belongings, looking for anything nefarious, even going as far as to take a girl's toy, believing it's an explosive. Kara continues meeting new people as Jimmy watches. Kat pesters him by asking how he feels about letting her go. We cut back to Superman though, where he continues to tough out the kryptonite until Whip's charge runs out, at which point he quickly ties her up, and as he departs, Whip says that she loves him. Kind of odd. Clark returns to the convention to hang out with Jimmy. All beaten up, but he hears the commotion Lois caused with the little girl and tries to patch things up. He attempts getting Lois to apologize to Shot, but she uses it as an opportunity to belittle him, saying things like she doesn't know how she thought he would be smart enough to create bombs and weapons, incapable of being a threat really. Falling for the bait, he proves Lois right, unleashing a massive toy robot, dubbing himself Toyman. Lois is a bit too happy that a giant robot is terrorizing the convention. Fortunately, the event is not short of super people, as we are introduced to a new powered being with Kryptonian powers who quickly takes down Toyman. However, this new supposed hero wears an L on his chest, as Lex Luthor is behind his creation. This here is our introduction to Cyborg Superman, formerly known as Hank Henshaw. After being injured during last season's finale, Lex has augmented him with cybernetics, giving him powers rivaling that of Superman. The super team discusses this new revelation, with Kara asking if it's her fault for her previous stint as a villain when she was being controlled by Brainiac. Jimmy says that if things get ugly, Superman and Supergirl will be there to stop Henshaw, confident in his friends. Back at LexCorp, Lex and Deathstroke stand around Henshaw as he is being repaired, monologuing how Shot was a perfect opportunity to show off his new invention, making it sound as though he was the reason behind Shot being there at the convention in the first place. We hear Henshaw say that they are attempting to save the world from Superman. Finally, through the credits, we see the super team setting up some figurines of themselves at a farm. A little fun visual to end off the episode. Now, to talk about some potential spoilers. While the majority of this episode didn't set up too much for the rest of the season, the introduction of yet another Superman adjacent character indicates to me that this season they are leading towards a reign of the Superman type event. If you're unaware, this is a comic storyline where after Superman's death, a few potential replacements made themselves known to the world, including Cyborg Superman, Steel, Superboy, and the Eradicator. If you don't know that last one, I don't blame you, as it's a bit more of an obscure character, basically being Kryptonian technology merged with the human body. I don't think they'll be including him in this season though, and he may even be replaced by Bizarro in the show. What exactly the events of this season end up being, I don't know, but I have a feeling that these Supermen will end up playing a big role. Anyway, that is it for this video. Great follow-up episode, doing a lot of progress, furthering Jimmy and Kara's relationship, and setting up the season going forward with whatever the hell Lex Luthor is planning. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing so YouTube knows to recommend more videos like this, and turn on notifications so you know when my next episode breakdown comes out. Until next time, this has been Chris, and I'll be seeing you.